My Gavanan there, it's your boy Offie D, back at it again with the Third Age Total War mod with the Divide and Conquer submod, because I wanted to play this game as the High Elves to counterbalance my recent victory as Isengard in an older version of this mod. I think things have recently changed because I was planning on playing just as Rivendell. I think at some point they got combined with the Linden faction and now it's just High Elves in general. So we have two bits of territory, the western coast of the world, and a little enclave up at Rivendell. So just have to deal with that basically. It explains in the beginning we have a few rules we need to keep in mind. Some of our units can only be recruited from places that are near water or have water in them. That's the Lindar and Sindar type units, maybe those are ethnicities of elves or something. Then there's another kind which requires me to first have a certain settlement before they will deign to fight for the High Elves. And then the final kind is pretty much the same deal, but it's a different place that we have to get. And also the third group only likes being recruited from hills or something like that. So we have all these rules in order to get certain units. And if you know where those places I'm supposed to take actually are, do tell me, because it says it's very important. But I have no idea where they are, and I suspect some of their names are actually the elven name, but then the name in the game is a human name or something, so maybe it's extra hard to work out what they are. Anyway, we'll see. Let's take a look at the starting situation. Obviously we have our split territory thing going on. We also have this one officer with some troops in between our two bits of territory just hanging out here. So I need to do something with him. And here's the part I thought I would be just playing as, Rivendell, or Imladris as it's actually called. I'm calling it by its disgusting human name. We'll need to stop doing that and get into the spirit of things. I don't actually know the lore, in case you were wondering, so feel free to inform me in the comments. All I know is that elves are beautiful and they've got somewhere else to be. That's about it. So as for our starting diplomacy situation, we're at war with the Goblins of Moria, who are all over the place near Rivendell, and the remnants of Angmar. I think they're an orc faction like at the top of the map. Didn't see them in my previous playthrough, so not quite sure where they are. But anyway, you can see there is a goblin settlement right there outside Imladris, and it's got an army in it. So we're probably going to have to focus on that for the time being. We've got a couple of units here to use, but our main infantry unit in the area are these Dunedain Wardens. So a sort of half-elf unit maybe, not sure what the lore behind that is. They're sort of human, maybe that's Aragorn's ethnicity, something like that. And they're also not all that good as units go. And like any good campaign, we start losing money, so we need to get money somehow, or stop losing so much money somehow right away. As for my economic strategy, I'm going to make the Builders Hall in all of our settlements. That's the thing that reduces the cost of all future constructions and makes them faster, it claims as well. So we're going to play the long game and avoid just building the mines right away, which might be better in the short run. I also noticed I had some ships over here at the west end of the map and figured they're probably not that useful, so I got rid of 2 of the 3 ships to save some money. I am actually going to do some stuff over here as well, because while it's very far from the action, we can cause some action to happen over here since there are some random rebel towns near our starting location. So I thought I might as well take all the units I start with and make an army here. I'm not going to recruit any more, but I'll take what we already have and try to conquer a bit of territory to make some money back there. And to help out, those guys that are just in the middle of the map can walk back in that general direction to get involved. It was a nice hobbit general, never seen that before, looks pretty good. I feel like playing as the hobbits might be my second choice for something weird to do in this campaign. Anyway, moving into the next turn we have an adoption. Going to take that, that's an adoption at Imladris, a handy place for a unit to spawn. Probably can't afford their upkeep, but that's going to be a crucial good melee unit for us to use. It also mentioned there that Moria has already been reclaimed by the dwarves, not sure if that's true, and we are still losing money. Here we're going to start gathering up these troops ready to go for under towers over there. Since the rebel army there is split, we don't have to face them both, so that should be not too difficult. And the goblin army at Zang is walking off. You can see it's going to the south there. So with that in mind, this is the perfect early game opportunity, because of course to get out of our financial plunge we need to either capture some territory or lose some troops. So we can move out and take the gamble that the goblins won't come back, because if they don't come back we can take their territory, and if they do we can lose some troops. So we win either way. It's time to move out right now. I'm going to use my new general and have Elrond still be alive in Imladris, since he's making us tons of money by sitting there, and I don't want him to die if this actually does turn out to be a disastrous move. We move on in the next turn, and the goblins are now no longer in sight, so we can just make some siege equipment ready to burst in. And then one turn later, still no sign of the goblins, they did just walk off somewhere, so here we go. I figured this would just be a free capture and we'd auto-resolve the one guy left inside, but then I remembered we are playing this mod and this happens all the time. At first I was confused, I was like, why is the balance bar even? I thought I was just killing a general here or something, but then I began to read what's on the screen and realised they've spawned 1,000 extra orc defenders, and these guys aren't even like trash orcs, their stats are slightly lower than our melee troops' stats, and of course they have much greater numbers, so that's not the best situation and it's pretty damn annoying, and it just reminded me of this happening to me in the past, and I was like, oh yeah, that's why I used to get really angry at this mod. Anyway, so this could be a spanner in the works for our plan, but I went ahead with the attack anyway. As you might be able to tell, it was a little bit dark in this map, so don't worry if you can't see what's going on. This was another map where actually the walls only allow you to attack with a ram, so I did waste my time by making some ladders, but the ram's enough, and also the enemy didn't defend the gate, so we just walked up and opened it, and now there's just an enormous circular cave beyond it. So we'll walk on in and get ready to set up for a pretty field battle-like siege assault. We've got our famous elven archers to use here. One thing I could try is just raining arrows on the enemy's capture point where they're standing around, but that wasn't quite what I wanted to do. So first I fired a couple of volleys hoping to get their attention. This sort of worked. I wanted to draw them away from the capture point basically, because fighting there causes them to be unroutable. We get attacked by only one unit, which I guess is okay because this one unit's in trouble. It's Warg Riders. They initially started charging my archers, which could have been dangerous, but they get caught on the edge of my spearmen and then just fight them instead. So that's more like it. The spears presumably have some sort of bonus against the wargs and numbers are on our side. These wargs are actually the enemy's commander as well, so this is their general out on his own, a nice chance to kill him. Looks like the archers are sneaking some kills in there as well, and soon enough we hack through the whole unit and it's down to just the general. He lasts for a long time, but eventually we do take him down as well. So that's a great start to this battle. Now everything's on lower morale, but as I said, if we fight on the capture point, that doesn't make a difference. So my main goal is to get some of these guys to come over towards me so I can fight them separately and try to get a rout going. One of the things I tried to do was shoot arrows at them, that essentially failed. Then I tried moving up with some of my wardens to effectively just stand on the capture point and see if this would tempt them to charge off and aggro. In the end, well, it didn't. So I fell back and shot some more arrows, and this time the enemy did aggro off the point a bit more, but only because I was really close to them, it seems. They were willing to move away, and they're going mainly for the archers. I've got my unit of swordmasters in front of the archers, so they're now going to be the tank units that will just stop the enemy's charge. Looks like it's a tiny bit easier to tell what's going on with the flashy unit thing, my old friend in Medieval 2, so I'll spam that as much as possible. And anyway, yes, the swordmasters will lock them in position, and the archers will then be manoeuvred to do what I need to do. The reason I didn't want to just rain arrows on them from afar was because I wanted to go in at point blank range and cut these guys down. I think that's our best way of overcoming their numbers. Just try and pick up a couple of hundred kills on each of the archer units by making sure they can't miss and maybe doing more damage. I don't know if that's how it works in this game, that close range attacks are more likely to actually get kills. Maybe not. But here you can see the strategy in action, just shooting into the flank of the enemy, their unshielded flank as well. I think this game does have the shield mechanics where shooting into their right flank does more damage than the left. And that's that really. Otherwise, my melee troops are just going to fight with the enemy, and we are a bit better than them, just not much. So we're not trading terribly, but even slightly advantageous trades are going to be of no use to us if we have no money, which is the case, and if it takes us a long time to recruit things, which I believe is also the case. I think you have to wait ages in between each recruitment of each unit. Here I'm having some trouble getting my elves to fire. I repositioned them to be in a slightly better position, but for some reason with fire at will on and even with the enemy in front, they didn't automatically start firing. After I gave the order, they get into the swing of things. This wasn't quite as powerful as I hoped. It's not like mowing them down in droves. Each volley grabs like 10 kills or something. So we'll just keep shooting and work our way through the crowd because we're committed to this now. This just has to work. And we are going to be thinning the crowd out from the front as well, especially with that Swordmaster unit. I presume they're good. I didn't actually check their stats. They actually got pretty much wrecked in this battle, so they're obviously not that good because they couldn't take on 400 orcs with 100 Swordmasters, so they're not like uber good. But anyway, their sacrifice was not completely in vain because they distracted the orcs for long enough for the archers to kill quite a few of them. And once it was down to like 150, I came in with the other archer unit that was nearby, which had run out of ammo, to make a rear attack, and I was able to rout this group since they are slightly off the capture point. That's perfect then. Now the archer unit will grab a whole bunch of free kills as they try to push back to the capture point, making the rest of the battle a bit easier for us. The other unit which is already on it, we can't really do that to. I could in theory start running away to pull them off the point, but then I'd also take casualties from them chasing me as I ran away. And I just didn't bother. I just attacked them from all sides and went for the kill them to the last man strat. And that works soon enough. So that's the end of this battle. A pretty messy one. I think a nice regular field battle would have gone better because the enemy were certainly benefiting from the morale bonus of the capture point. We sack the settlement for public order reasons afterwards, and the place is taken, so it seems my plan worked. And as for our losses, well, those were also sort of part of the plan. The question now is, will that big army just come back, attack and kill us? Well, that's what we have to look out for. In the meantime, we still haven't done enough to sort out the economy. We're still losing money. So we're going to want to do this attack over here against this Undertowers place. There are no fortifications, so we can go in and make the attack right away. And perhaps most importantly, nothing else appears as I make the attack. So we get what it says on the tin, it's just some trash. Although actually, their first unit, the Cell Swords, that's actually quite a good unit. In fact, it's better than my generic melee infantry. So need to keep that in mind. Everything else is just trash, bandits basically. For this one we can use our archers again because we can stand outside the town since it's very small and shoot into it. What I hoped was it would draw the enemy outside because again we don't want to fight on that capture point area. So we rained some arrows on this stuff. At first it actually didn't draw them out, they just ran backwards and forwards. But then I moved closer and started firing again, and this time they did start coming up the road towards us. What I was trying to do is shoot mostly at the Cell Swords, since they are the strongest melee unit and they don't have a shield. Hitting them with the arrows is going to be the best counter. Well, even better would be hitting them with the jabs. So what I really wanted to do is pull them out of this road area, and I formed a box in front of my archers, so we're going to draw them in and attack them from all sides. This didn't work quite as well as I thought for a couple of reasons. Firstly, their archers were actually killing my javelin guys quite well, and the enemy were very indecisive about leaving the town. They kind of came to the entrance and then stood around for a bit. Great for me hitting them with more arrows, but it meant I didn't get a clear surround and pound going right away. In the end, I had the archers shoot at the enemy's distant archers and charge there into the side of those Cell Swords, while our weaker swords will just tank their charge, which is not ideal, but it's going to do the job. And the Javs end up coming in to attack these bandits. I wanted them to attack the Cell Swords ideally, but I clearly didn't make much effort to actually have that happen. In the end, we do just about manage to get a volley of Javs into these bandits at close range, and that just mows down like 20 of them instantly. That's a good start. Then our general's bodyguards, who are like the elite elven units, will easily mow down those bandits. From here then we push our way up that road towards the centre of town, where there are more bandits and hunter units for us to fight, and at this stage all we need to do is just kind of grind them out in the melee. It's pretty unlikely our generals will die, so we could just have the general's bodyguards kill them. And of course in this game the general's bodyguards respawn after battle, gradually anyway. So in many ways using generals is going to be better for us than using regular units, since one of our main faction weaknesses is that it's hard to get more units back. Exploiting the fact that generals come back could be a key to victory, and the fact that our generals are really good. Also after this fight I decided I'm going to start analysing the results, because I came into this campaign just assuming that everything would trade well with whatever we fight, but it's clearly not the case. We need to work out which units are actually secretly bad and which ones are good. Looks like the general's bodyguards are good as I predicted, it's just that our base units are a bit worse than I thought really. This time I don't need to sack the place for public order, so that's good. We'll keep a bit more of the income and the population. And that's that really. This would potentially have solved my financial deficit. However, at the start of the next turn, I got the chance to hire another general, and carrying on from what I just said, I was like, yes, I want more generals, the more the merrier, but they are expensive to upkeep. So now we're losing money again, plus we have no money, so next turn, bankruptcy. We need to do something about it as soon as possible. What I figured we'd do is just disband most of our western units. So what I'll do is step out, fight these rebels, and then get as many troops as we need to killed, then just disband the survivors. And killing the rebels might improve our income a bit. You get a bit of money from sacking the enemy camp afterwards. Other than that, it's not especially important, but here we go. This video is sponsored by me, and I say play Godless Tactics, the turn-based tactics and strategy game out now on Steam. You explore an exotic future scenario, pick your own path through an open world of strategic choices, and use a teamwork-focused tactical battle system to resolve your fights. It's good, and I know this because I made it myself. Link in the description. In this battle, the enemy were sitting on a hill, but a few volleys of arrows brings them down. And then curiously, they had all of these pike units that were kind of running at us, and then they turned. You can see here they're running off to our flank. Maybe they're going after that one unit I've got behind them right now. So that's especially useful. We don't have to run into any sort of stationary pike formation. We can run into this mess and get things going. Guessing our general's bodyguard's going to be a fair bit better than their stuff. So that all looks good. They also had some archers on the hill. I've got my Jav guys in with them. I think that Jav unit is actually a good melee unit as well. And also this unit's getting attacked from two sides. All good stuff. Mostly the rebels are not going to be high quality troops. Plus, losses among our regular troops don't matter because they're fired after this anyway. And losses among the general's bodyguard don't matter because they respawn. Overall then, a pretty free and easy battle. Perhaps this will be the only one of those. I decided to stop attacking the pikes for a bit because they were kind of forming the pike wall in the melee. So I ran away, got them to move a bit, and then ran back in when they looked a bit less formed up. Just hoping that things will go a bit better this way. The only thing we need to avoid is losing an officer, and we do achieve that. Here's the end of the battle once stuff chain routes. I've killed enough stuff to delete the enemy army, so that's all good. After that, we disband the survivors, leaving just the general. So we'll keep the generals alive, since they're harder to get back, and it probably is a good idea to have something here in case like 3 rebel units show up or something, or the place actually rebels from public order issues, something like that. So we'll keep those guys there and focus all of our money that we do have on the Rivendell front. We're going to be making a bit of money now, and the goal is to build up enough cash to build things like mines and farms. That'll get us a more substantial income, and then I hope we can field some kind of army that can push out in some direction. For now, we need to worry about that goblin army that walked off earlier because it happens to be coming back. I moved out Elrond with some reinforcements to hide on the way to the goblin place. Unfortunately, the goblins just went in and laid siege. So now I can either rear attack with Elrond and make a field battle, or do what I preferred to do, and that is to leave the situation as it is and wait for the siege attack. I was checking their stats here and noting, annoyingly, that these heavy goblin infantry are as good as my melee troops, so that bodes poorly. Also, the siege defense map isn't going to be very good there. We saw it's basically just a tiny wall and a gate, so not all that much to play with. But yes, I did pull back Elrond. That helps with the money as well because his units get free upkeep, and he boosts the income of Imladris while he's there. I'm also going to move out over here at Undertowers. I'm leaving 1 unit to garrison it. These 2 generals are going on an adventure. Firstly, it was just to put down watchtowers to look at our borders, but some more will come of that, which we'll talk about in the next part. For now, coming back to Zang, they do indeed make a siege attack, and they've got the advantage on the balance bar. So now we have to hope for some siege antics to overcome their numbers. At least we can see they've built ladders and a siege tower, and that's going to be no good for them, just as it was no good for me. So they abandoned the ladder and siege tower, and in they come. So I'm set up just behind the gate, hoping to choke point the enemy, of course. That will mean their numbers don't mean too much. However, they will be able to use attrition on us. We can't necessarily kill them all fighting in a prolonged melee, so that's going to be our issue. I had hoped the towers here would help us out. You can see we've got 2 towers, but they're not actually attacking the enemy as they approach, and we'll come back to that because the mystery behind it was revealed after I sent out my 15 swordmasters to distract the enemy. The goal here is just to make them stop pushing the ram so they stand out in front of the wall for longer. the secret goal of this strategy is to make them glitch out and stop advancing the ram at all, but after trying this in my previous Third Age Total War campaign, I know it doesn't work. They'll go back to it afterwards and keep pushing. But for now, it keeps them just standing there, getting hit by my arrows, and they're wasting their own arrows trying to hit my tiny unit as well. Plus, you might note, the towers have started firing. As it turns out, the activation zone for the towers is on the wrong side of the wall, so they'll only fire while we're outside of the settlement. Not particularly convenient, but for now, my sacrificial unit is going to pick up more kills than it would do otherwise, since the towers are shooting into this big enemy blob. It takes the enemy a really long time to kill the Swordmasters. They did much better in this battle than they did the last time we were fighting on this map, where they seem to be pretty average. But soon enough they do go down, the enemy open the gate, and now we rely on this double unit of Dunedain Wardens. They're in the shield wall formation, presumably giving them some sort of defensive buff, and now we wait. The enemy are going to absolutely pile through the gate with all of this stuff, and now the old Total War mass mechanics will start to work against us, because we essentially can't choke point them here. Once so many things are pushing through, our units will just be moved back. All I can do at this stage is wait and see what the result of the melee is. Maybe we'll kill all of them. And as it turns out, it wasn't going very well. You can see we managed to get to the flashy numbers stage of losing troops, where they're killing us real fast. So yes, these Dunedain Wardens just are nothing special, and as mentioned, they're kind of similar to the Goblin troops. So that sucks, and we lose those two units. Then we just have to fight with our archers in melee and our general's bodyguard. I kind of sped up time thinking, well, let's just last stand this and see what happens. I did note a couple of enemy units routed, so we made some progress there. And I think our archers were doing quite good in the melee. I'm guessing because they had full stamina and the enemy were already exhausted by this point. And anyway, as you can see here, after the grind goes on for a while we did lose a lot of stuff, we get a chain rout and all of the things just retreat and we kill a whole bunch as they go. So, we end up winning. I figured I was going to be grinding that down to a loss, but actually their morale broke. Wasn't the old infinite morale enemy thing that you often see in Total War mods, especially from Medieval 2. That wasn't actually the end of the fight, because they had one more unit that was sitting at the back of the map. They then came over, and to fight them I put all of our stuff outside the walls, now knowing this is the true place to defend because the towers will start shooting at the enemy. That will help us out a bit. Aside from that, we're just going to again grind them with our archers in melee and our general's bodyguard, who are probably quite good, better than the goblins, just very outnumbered. Here we are a while later. We hack at them for a while from multiple directions. That proves to be enough and they rout. Our general doesn't die, so that's great. And the battle comes to an end. We've picked up a heroic victory with 95% of the enemy army killed. Good stuff. We lost all of our melee troops in the process, so this army is now dead. And on top of the fact that I also disbanded our western army, we now have virtually no troops anywhere in our empire. So we're going to be very much hoping that nobody attacks us. I had the chance here to make this bladesmith guild in those very mines or the caves, and I decided not to because I want to save the money. We need quite a bit of cash to get the mines and farms going. So yes, now we'll just see what happens from here. This will be the end of my first part. We're ending things in a very precarious situation. As I said, we've got no troops, and we kind of have no money, but I'm hoping to turn that around using the fact we have no troops. Really, we need to rely on a bit of luck and RNG to get through this early phase of the campaign, and maybe later we'll become a bit more competitive. So far it does seem the High Elves kind of suck, but of course later we'll see their real units and stuff, and perhaps that will change. Join me to see if we can hang on in part 2 of this Abridged Elves campaign, coming soon.